The garage door was wide open. That was the very first thing I noticed when I stepped onto the back porch with a mug of coffee in my hand. It was 6:09 in the morning and the cool California air felt fresh, but my stomach instantly tightened into a hard, painful knot. My late wife, Martha, had never left that garage door open overnight. Not once in the 38 years we spent together in this house. She was a woman of absolute order, structures, and habits, and that garage was her sanctuary. Even after she passed away 1 year ago, I kept everything exactly as she left it. I set my mug down on the wooden railing and walked across the grass. The yard was quiet. The dew was still wet on the lawn, and my slippers soaked through immediately, but I did not care. I reached the concrete threshold of the garage and stopped. The space inside was empty. The center of the floor, where the oil drip pan sat, was completely bare. My eyes went to the blank space, trying to process what was missing. It was Martha's pride and joy, a deep red 1969 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray. She had spent 15 years restoring that car, piece by piece, nut by bolt. She used to spend her Saturdays bent over the engine bay, her gray hair tied back, a smudge of black grease on her cheek, humming classic rock tunes. It was not just metal and paint, it was a physical piece of her soul. And now, the space was vacant. Only the faint smell of motor oil and old leather remained in the air. My heart hammered against my ribs. I walked inside, my hands shaking. The workbench at the back was untouched. Her wrenches hung on the pegboard, each in its hand-drawn outline. Her red metal toolbox sat closed. Next to it was her blue work journal, where she logged every spark plug change and carburetor adjustment in her neat, flowing handwriting. I ran my fingers over the leather cover of the journal, my chest aching with a sudden, suffocating panic. Had someone broken in? Had a crew of thieves rolled the car out in the dark? Before I could walk back to the house to call the sheriff, the crunch of gravel sounded in the driveway. I turned around. A brand new, shiny black SUV pulled up. It was a leased vehicle, a detail my son Julian had pointed out at Thanksgiving, expecting me to be impressed by his lifestyle. Julian got out of the driver's seat. He was 36 years old. But as he walked toward the garage, his shoulders hunched in that familiar, defensive way he had since he was a teenager who had broken a window. He could not look me in the eye. The passenger door opened and Tiffany stepped out. She was immaculate, as always. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her designer sunglasses hid her eyes, and she wore a coat that probably cost more than my monthly pension check. She stood by the car, looking around my modest yard with a faint air of disgust, before walking slowly toward the garage. "Julian," I said, my voice tight. "The Corvette is gone. Did you see anything? Did someone break in last night?" Julian stopped at the edge of the concrete. He swallowed hard, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. "Dad, we need to talk about that. Where is your mother's car, Julian?" I demanded, taking a step toward him. "I sold it," he said. The words came out quick and flat, like he wanted to get them over with. I stood there, paralyzed. My brain refused to accept the sentence. "You what?" "I sold it yesterday afternoon," Julian said, looking down at his expensive shoes. "I had to. Tiffany and I needed the money. We are going to Paris tomorrow. Tiffany has these crucial business networking events lined up, and we were short on cash. I could not let her down, Dad. It is a massive opportunity for her career." The tightness in my chest became a burning heat. I felt the blood rush to my ears. "You took your mother's car? The car she spent 15 years rebuilding? The car we drove on our wedding anniversary every single year?" "Dad, be reasonable." Julian's voice went high and defensive. "Mom is gone. You do not even drive the car. It was just sitting here collecting dust. I got a solid price for it, too. A dealer in town gave me $12,000 for it. That is a lot of cash for a machine that is over 50 years old. It makes sense to use that money to build our future." $12,000? My voice cracked. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab my son and shake him until he realized the gravity of what he had done. But my years as a high school math teacher had taught me to control my temper, even when my mind was screaming. "You sold a museum-quality 1969 Corvette Stingray for $12,000, and you did it behind my back while I was at my weekly doctor's appointment?" "Julian still had his key to the garage," Tiffany said, stepping forward. She did not take off her sunglasses. Her voice was cool, smooth, and entirely unbothered. "Gerald, we are not going to argue about this. The deal is done. The car is gone, and the money is already deposited. We leave for Zurich and Paris tomorrow morning. We need to focus on our trip. I looked at Tiffany. She had been married to my son for 2 years, and yet I realized I knew nothing genuine about her. She claimed to be a high-end marketing consultant, but she never seemed to have local clients. She always talked about big deals, but Julian was the one taking out personal loans. This was not your decision to make, Tiffany, I said, my voice dangerously low. That car belonged to this family. It was Martha's legacy. Martha is dead, Tiffany replied, her tone sharp and direct, and Julian is alive. We are trying to build a life here, Gerald. Surely a father would want to help his son succeed rather than cling to an old piece of metal. It was a logical choice. The car was doing nothing for you. You stole from me, I said, looking directly at my son. Julian, look at me. You stole your mother's car. Julian flinched, but Tiffany quickly put her hand on his arm, her long red nails pressing into his sleeve. We did not steal anything, Gerald. The key was Julian's. The garage was unlocked. Let's not make a dramatic scene. We will send you some postcards from Europe. She turned Julian around, tugging him gently back toward their vehicle. Julian glanced back at me once, his face pale and conflicted, but he did not speak. He got into the passenger side, and Tiffany climbed in beside him. The SUV backed out of my driveway, leaving a small cloud of dust. I stood in the empty garage, the morning sun finally hitting the concrete floor. The silence was deafening. I looked at the empty space where the Corvette should have been, and for the first time since Martha died, I felt completely, utterly alone. I walked over to the workbench, picked up Martha's blue journal, and held it to my chest. The phone rang at 7:30 the next morning. I had not slept. I had spent the entire night sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the empty driveway through the window. When the phone rang, displaying an unfamiliar local number, I almost let it go to voicemail. But some instinct made me pick it up. Gerald? Is that you? A man's voice, rough and gravelly, came through the speaker. Yes, this is Gerald Miller. Who is this? Gerald, it's Oliver. Oliver Higgins, from Higgins Classic Cars. The man took a deep, shaky breath. Listen, I have Martha's Corvette in my shop. Your son brought it in 2 days ago. I need you to come down here right now. Do not tell your son, and do not tell his wife. Just get here as fast as you can. My mind raced. Oliver, the Corvette, what is going on? Gerald, please. I owe my entire career to you. 25 years ago, when no bank would give me a dime to start my business, you and Martha loaned me $10,000 from your savings. You saved my life. I paid you back, but I never forgot. When Julian rolled up with Martha's Stingray, offering to sell it for a measly $12,000, my heart nearly stopped. I bought it immediately because I knew, if I did not, some predatory dealer would take it and strip it down. But Gerald, that car is not mine, and there is something you need to see. Something Martha hid inside it before she died. My breath caught. Martha hid something? Yes. She came to my shop about 14 months ago, right before she got really sick. She asked me to install a secure, hidden compartment in the rear wheel well, behind the spare tire carriage. She made me swear on my life that if anyone ever tried to sell this car, or if anything happened to her, I would call you and tell you to look inside. Come to the shop, Gerald. The car is safe. 30 minutes later, I pulled up to Higgins Classic Cars on the industrial side of town. The lot was filled with beautiful classic muscle cars. But my eyes went straight to the garage bay. There it was. The deep red Corvette sat under the bright fluorescent lights, its paint polished to a mirror finish. Oliver Higgins was waiting for me. He was 60 years old, with grease-stained hands and graying hair, wearing a work shirt with his name embroidered on the pocket. He did not say a word, he just walked over and gave me a tight, brief hug. She's in perfect shape, Gerald, Oliver said, gesturing to the car. Your son had no clue what he had. A 1969 Stingray with matching numbers, fully restored? This car is worth at least $150,000 on the open market. He let it go for $12,000 because he was desperate for quick cash. Why would Martha hide something in the car, Oliver? I asked, looking at the sleek red body. Let's look, Oliver said. He led me to the back of the car, knelt down and reached under the rear bumper. He released the spare tire carrier and pointed to a small metal panel welded into the frame above the tire. It's a spring-loaded lock. Press this bolt here and pull the panel down. I knelt down on the cold concrete floor. My fingers found the bolt. I pressed it hard, and with a soft click, a small metal drawer slid out. Inside was a thick, yellow manila folder wrapped in plastic to protect it from moisture, a smaller white envelope with my name written in Martha's elegant handwriting, and a heavy brass key. I sat back on the floor, my heart pounding in my ears. Oliver stepped back, giving me space. "I'll be in the front office, Gerald. Take your time." I opened the white envelope first. My hands shook so much I almost tore the paper. "Gerald," the letter began. "If you are reading this, it means I am no longer with you and someone has tried to take my car. I am so sorry I kept this from you, my love. You were dealing with my illness, and I did not want to burden you with my fears until I had absolute proof. I have been investigating Tiffany for the last 18 months. She is not who she claims to be. Her real name is Brenda Vance, and she is a professional predator. In this folder, you will find everything I gathered with the help of a private investigator named Victor Thorne. She has targeted families like ours before, Gerald. She marries men with aging, independent parents, slowly isolates them, and then drains their assets. The brass key in this drawer belongs to Safe Deposit Box 312 at First National Bank. Inside, you will find the stock certificates I inherited from my uncle in '94. I never told you because I wanted it to be our emergency retirement fund. They are worth a lot of money now. Use them to protect yourself. And please, save our son. He is blind to her, but he is a victim too. I love you forever, Martha." I sat on the cold floor of the garage, holding the paper close to my face. The scent of Martha's perfume was long gone, replaced by the damp smell of dust and old gasoline. But reading her handwriting made me feel like she was sitting right next to me, her warm hand on my shoulder. She had been fighting for her life against cancer, chemotherapy draining her strength week by week, and yet she still had the clarity and the fierce love to execute this investigation. She had protected me. I remembered those late nights when she would sit at the kitchen table, looking tired, writing in her journal. I had assumed she was just writing recipes or budgeting. Now I knew she was documenting a threat to our home. Tears blurred my vision. I wiped my eyes and opened the plastic wrapping around the manila folder. Inside were pages of printouts, marriage certificates, police reports, and photographs. There was a photo of Tiffany under the name Brenda Vance, standing next to an older man in Arizona. Another photo showed her in Florida, smiling next to a different family. I held the evidence in my lap, sitting next to the tire of the car Martha had spent years building. She had spent the final months of her life, while fighting cancer, trying to shield our family from a monster. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and felt a cold, hard determination settle into my chest. The time for grieving was over. It was time to fight. I spent the next 3 hours in Oliver's office, using his landline to make calls. The manila folder contained contact details for 2 men, Leonard Wright in Arizona and Lawrence Murphy in Florida. I dialed Leonard's number first. He answered on the second ring, his voice sounding dry and weary. "Mr. Wright, my name is Gerald Miller. I am calling from California. My son recently married a woman named Tiffany, but I have reason to believe her real name is Brenda Vance." There was a long, heavy silence on the line, then a ragged sigh. "Oh, God, she found someone else." "I am so sorry, Mr. Miller. Can you tell me what happened, Leonard?" I asked, my pen ready over a legal pad. "My father was 82, Leonard said, his voice cracking with old grief. He owned a beautiful home in Phoenix, completely paid off. He was independent, but after my mother died, he was lonely. Brenda appeared at his church, volunteering. She was sweet, attentive. She married my brother, who was living with my dad. Within months, Brenda started making small comments. She told my brother that our father was getting confused. She staged incidents, hiding his keys, unplugging the stove, and claiming he had left it on. She convinced my brother that Dad was a danger to himself. They forced him into a high-end memory care home that cost $15,000 a month. To pay for it, they sold Dad's house for $310,000. The money went into a joint account. 2 weeks later, Brenda vanished. She cleaned out every cent. The police told us that since she was on the account, it was a civil matter. My father died 6 months later in a state-run facility. He died thinking he had lost his mind and ruined his family. Don't let her do this to you, Gerald. Thank you. Leonard, I said, my chest tight with anger. I won't. Next, I called Lawrence Murphy. His story was almost identical. He was a 58-year-old shop owner in Tampa. Brenda had married him in 2021. She convinced him to sell his family's auto garage for $195,000 under the pretense of relocating to Costa Rica. The moment the funds cleared into their joint account, she disappeared. The pattern was clear. She targeted families with valuable real estate or cash assets, manipulated the younger generation into exploiting the older one, and then fled with the money. I hung up the phone and looked at the notes. Then, I opened Martha's file again and looked at the private investigator's business card. Victor Thorne. I called his office immediately. Gerald, Victor said when he answered, I was hoping you'd call. Martha was a remarkable woman. She wanted to protect you and Julian. I have kept monitoring Brenda's digital footprint since Martha passed. She is currently in the active stage of her plan with you. What do you mean? I asked. Look at your house, Gerald. Has Julian asked about the deed recently? Has Tiffany taken photos of the property? My stomach dropped as the pieces clicked together. Yes. 2 months ago, Julian asked me where I kept the house deed, claiming he wanted to help me organize my estate files. And last month, during Sunday dinner, Tiffany was upstairs for a long time. She said she was looking for the bathroom, but I found her near my study. I remembered a specific evening 3 weeks before. Tiffany had brought over a bottle of wine. She poured me a glass and smiled, asking so gently, Gerald, have you thought about what would happen if you had a sudden fall? This house is so lovely, but those stairs are a hazard. We should make sure the property deed is in a safe place, maybe in a joint name with Julian, just to protect it from probate taxes. Her voice had been like honey, sweet and dripping with fake concern. I had smiled and thanked her, feeling touched by her care. Now the memory made me sick. It was a calculated probe, a scout measuring the defenses of a castle before the attack. She is preparing to list the house, Victor explained. She is also building a case that you have dementia. Have you noticed Julian questioning your memory? Yes, I muttered, a chill running down my spine. A few weeks ago, Julian got upset, claiming I had forgotten about a lunch appointment. But we never made one. I thought I was just getting old. She is gaslighting him, Gerald. She is creating a paper trail of your cognitive decline, so she can convince Julian to obtain power of attorney over you. Under California law, if she gets Julian to sign a forged or manipulated document, she could attempt to sell your home under the guise of paying for your care. That constitutes elder financial abuse under California Welfare and Institutions Code, Section 1561030. We need to stop her before she gets her hands on any legal authority. What do we do? I asked. You need to show Julian the truth, but he won't believe just you. He is completely under her spell. He has to hear it from the victims, and he has to see the financial proof himself. I have been tracking their finances. She has opened 3 credit cards in Julian's name without his knowledge, racking up $25,000 in debt to fund their luxury lifestyle. I have the bank statements. We need to present this to him today. He leaves for Zurich tomorrow morning, I said. We have to do it now. I called Julian and told him to meet me at my house at 3 p.m. I told him it was urgent, concerning his mother's estate. He hesitated, saying Tiffany wanted him to finish packing, but I insisted. When he arrived, he looked anxious. He sat at the kitchen table, his eyes avoiding the thick manila folder resting in the center of the wooden surface. Dad, if this is about the Corvette again, please, Julian sighed, rubbing his face. I told you we needed the money. Tiffany's business. Julian, I interrupted, my voice calm but firm. I want you to look at this folder. What is it? It is an investigation your mother started 18 months ago, before she died. She was trying to protect you. Julian frowned, reaching for the folder. He opened it, and as he began to read Martha's letter and scan the photographs, the color drained from his face. This is ridiculous, Julian said, his voice rising in denial. This is some kind of sick joke. Who is Brenda Vance? Tiffany is a marketing consultant. She went to Boston University. She called these numbers, Julian, I said, sliding the legal pad with Leonard and Lawrence's phone numbers toward him. Don't believe me. Call them. Ask them about their wives. Ask them about the woman who stole their family's lives. Julian stared at the phone numbers. For a long minute, he did not move. Then, with shaking hands, he pulled out his cell phone and dialed Leonard Wright. I sat in silence as my son listened to the man on the other end of the line. I watched his eyes widen, then fill with tears. He hung up and immediately dialed Lawrence Murphy. The call lasted 10 minutes. When Julian finally set his phone down, his hands were trembling so violently he could barely hold it. She did the exact same things, Julian whispered, his voice cracking. She told me you were getting forgetful, Dad. She told me we needed to look at senior living homes for you, because you were becoming a burden. She said we could sell this house and use the equity to buy a larger place with a guest suite for you. I believed her. I thought she cared about you. She doesn't care about anyone, Julian, I said gently. She is a predator, but the trip, Julian stammered. The business connections. Victor Thorne, the investigator, found that she opened 3 credit cards in your name. Here are the statements. I slid the financial documents toward him. You are $25,000 in debt, Julian. She used your credit to buy those designer clothes, the dinners, and the tickets to Switzerland. Julian stared at the credit card statements. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The betrayal was absolute, crushing him right in front of me. What do I do, Dad? He sobbed, burying his face in his hands. What do I do? Go home, I said. Act normal. Ask her simple questions about her past. Ask to see the credit card statements. See how she reacts. But do not let her know we have this file. Julian nodded, wiped his face, and left. At 10 p.m., my phone rang. It was Julian, his voice breathless and terrified. Dad, she's gone. I did what you said. I asked her about her college years, and she got defensive. She gave me different names for her professors than she had before. Then I brought up the credit cards. I told her I saw a notification about a new account in my name. She went completely cold, Dad. She did not even deny it. She just looked at me like I was garbage. She said I was weak and pathetic, just like the others. She packed her bags and drove off. I don't know where she went. I do! Victor Thorne's voice broke in on a 3-way call. I've been tracking her vehicle. She just checked into the airport Marriott, and she booked a 1-way ticket to Zurich, departing at 6 a.m. She is trying to flee the country with whatever cash she has left. We need to stop her, I said. Julian, meet us at the airport. We are going to end this. At 4:30 a.m., the airport terminal was quiet and cold. Julian and I stood near the international departures check-in counter, while Victor Thorne stood a few yards away, speaking to 2 plainclothes detectives. Under California Penal Code Section 470, Brenda Vance had committed forgery by signing Julian's name on the credit applications. Combined with the evidence of elder financial abuse, the detectives had enough to detain her. At 5 a.m., Tiffany, or Brenda, appeared. She carried 2 large suitcases. Wearing her expensive coat and sunglasses, she looked calm, walking toward the kiosk to print her boarding pass. The detectives moved in quickly, blocking her path. Brenda Vance? One of them asked, showing his badge. I think you have the wrong person, she said, her voice smooth and untroubled. My name is Tiffany Miller. We have a warrant for your arrest for identity theft, forgery, and financial fraud, ma'am. Step aside, please. Brenda's eyes darted around the terminal. She saw Victor Thorne. Then her gaze landed on Julian and me. Her calm facade shattered. She dropped her bags and tried to run toward the security line, but security officers tackled her to the polished floor. Get off me, she screamed, thrashing wildly. You have nothing on me. Julian, you idiot. Tell them to let me go. Julian stood tall, holding my hand for support, but he did not speak. The detectives opened her luggage right there. Inside the second suitcase, they found $45,000 in cash, rubber-banded in thick stacks, along with a fake passport under the name Linda Brennan. You are a pathetic old fool, Gerald. Brenda spat at me as they dragged her away in handcuffs. You and your dead wife. I almost had this house. You should have died already. Her screams echoed through the terminal until the security doors closed behind her. Julian let out a long breath, a mixture of relief and deep sorrow. It is over, he said. 6 months later, the legal process was complete. Brenda Vance was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for multiples of elder financial abuse and forgery. Because she had signed the credit applications under a stolen identity, the banks fell back on their fraud policies, and Julian's $25,000 debt was completely wiped clean. I visited First National Bank with the brass key Martha had left me. Safe deposit box 312 contained stock certificates for TechCore Solutions, which had gone public. The bank manager confirmed their value, $280,000. I did not keep all of it. I sent $10,000 checks to Leonard Wright and Lawrence Murphy to help ease the financial damage Brenda had caused their families. For Julian, I paid off his remaining legal fees and helped him secure a modest apartment close to my house. One Saturday morning, the deep rumbling roar of a classic V8 engine sounded in my driveway. I walked out to the porch. Oliver Higgins sat behind the wheel of the deep red 1969 Corvette Stingray. He turned off the engine, climbed out, and smiled. "She's back home, Gerald," Oliver said, handing me the keys. "I kept the $12,000 Julian paid me, but I don't want a dime more. This car belongs to Martha's family. You and Julian need to drive her." I looked at the beautiful red car. Julian came out of the house, his eyes wide. He walked over, running his hand along the smooth chrome of the fender. "Can we work on it today, Dad?" Julian asked, his voice soft. "I want to learn everything about it, just like Mom did." "Yes, Julian," I smiled, my throat tight. "Let's open the hood." We spent the afternoon in the garage, surrounded by Martha's tools. We checked the oil, adjusted the air filter, and listened to the radio. We closed the hood carefully, the metal latch clicking shut with a solid, satisfying sound. I went to the kitchen and brought out 2 clean mugs, pouring fresh coffee for both of us. We sat on 2 wooden stools in the corner of the garage, looking at the gleaming red Corvette Stingray. The evening sun cast long shadows across the concrete floor, illuminating the tiny dust motes floating in the air. "She would be happy, Dad," Julian said, looking at the car. "Yes, she would," I agreed, taking a sip of the hot coffee. "Martha always said that a car like this isn't meant to be hidden away. It's meant to be driven, to feel the wind, to go on journeys." 2 weeks later, on a bright Sunday morning, Julian and I took the Stingray out for its first real road trip. We drove along the Pacific Coast Highway, the powerful engine purring smoothly beneath us. The ocean breeze was cool, and the sky was a brilliant, endless blue. Julian drove first, his hands steady on the steering wheel, a genuine smile on his face for the first time in months. I sat in the passenger seat, looking at the road ahead, knowing that Martha was with us in every rumble of the engine. We were not completely whole yet, but we were on the road to healing. For the first time in a year, the garage did not feel empty. It was filled with the smell of old leather, motor oil, and the quiet, steady healing of a father and son.